Here we are. Good afternoon. Welcome to another Kerfuffle. Sorry, another Kerfuffle. We're going Kerfuffle. We're going another Kerfuffle showcase. Paul, ignore all that. We'll edit all that out. Don't worry. This is live, but that bit won't be. Welcome, Paul. Yuno, CEO and founder. How are you today?
I'm very well, Simon. Thanks very much.
Thank yourself. There'll be more of that seamless excellence as we go through the show. Paul, today you've given us a lovely title here, and I don't know whether you did this just for me, whether you're mocking me a little bit, but it's just, does property compliance and licensing give you a headache? You know it does, so I'm hoping over the course of the next half hour you're going to solve that for me.
Oh dear. Well, if I can convince you, I can convince anyone. That's fine.
I don't know whether that was an insult or a compliment. I'll just ride it out as I always do. Okay, Paul, give us the vision behind why you set up Yuno. Give us just a bit of that background, if you don't mind.
Yeah, certainly. We started off as a kind of consultancy company, as most kind of like compliance agencies do, and we supported various agencies, Douglas and Gordon, Marsh and Parsons, etc. And then we just realised that there was a problem with the agency model when it came to compliance, when it came to trying to get data from lots of different councils all into one place. So yeah, Yuno was born from that. Was the hardest part of the situation is that you've got lots of conflicting data from lots of different councils, and basically trying to get yourself as the business owner to understand it, but subsequently your property managers or your branch managers and extended teams so that they can give all the right advice at all times and you can track what's going on. So yeah, we could quite easily you pass as a landlord and we could look after them for you and take them through a journey, but it's complicated, it's slow, it's confusing for all parties, there's a handover process, etc. So the idea was just to empower the agent to have one platform that we can store all this stuff on. They can learn on the platform, they can train on the platform, they can deliver advice from the platform, and as I say, all the confusing things about lots of different councils' data sets for licensing and Article 4 to generis planning permission is all in one platform.
Got you. So the single platform thing comes across there, obviously a number of times. Paul, I keep hearing that council point. Can this issue be summarised as literally laying the feet of the councils, or is it more complex than that?
What do you mean by that? Sorry?
Well, just you talk about that complexity about having to deal with just so many different councils to get this data from and everything else. There is that the crux of the issue, or is it far more complicated than that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that. So there's issues right at the root of everything that is property data as well. So our systems uses UPRNs, unique property reference numbers. So I don't know if you heard about that, but basically it's like a car reg plate for a house, and it's kind of like one source of truth for property addresses. So no longer upper floor flat, top floor flat, flat 2A, flat A, flat B, flat C, flat D, whatever the hell it's supposed to be. It's one number basically. So you have one number with an address. So starting with that is figuring exactly, we're both talking about the same property, and then obviously figuring out there's kind of government-wide rules, there's local councils rules, there's guidance issues. Do we listen to Lakehouse guidance or the British standards guidance? I think I know this, but you knew something for this council, but you didn't know it was different in this council, or just because you now have a shared tenancy agreement rather than individual tenancy agreements, so much changes, and why does that change? Or it changes. I mean, the ridiculous example used, which is instead of like, oh, the property has 3 stories or 5 stories or whatever it's supposed to be, does the property have a blue door? And like it changes on so many factors that it was primed to be controlled and logicked out on a platform basically, and then as I say, once you've used a platform like this, you'll not go back to the old kind of researching yourself, trying to figure it out, etc.
So what's your background, Paul, and how did you get into sort of property and compliance?
Oh, that's exciting. So I was
difficult questions here.
I was in the oil industry, and another like really boring, detailed job where I did something called fiscal metering. So we analysed mass flow and composition of the oil and gas extracted from wells, which sounds complicated. There was chromatographs and flow meters and all this stuff. But basically, it was me with little screwdrivers and lots of like small calculations with small tolerances. And there's a lot of compliance to do with that as well, a lot of safety requirements because of the industry. So yeah, came to London, did property development, realised that was too cool for me, back to compliance related stuff, and then just supporting our partners through the stuff that, like agents and letting agents, and they are go-getters, like they go there, they're out there to sell or to impress clients, etc. You need the geeks. That's what we have. We've got a platform of digital geeks and real geeks of qualified, experienced, accredited experts to kind of solve the problem. So I suppose, yeah, we're the geeks of the industry, basically.
This is the age of geeks, though, isn't it? In a wonderful way.
We're taking over.
The geeks have inherited the earth, and long may it continue there. And where did the vision come from? Because where did the original idea? Where did that come from, Paul?
Yeah, I get it was. I mean, ultimately, it was around the problems that we saw in the industry and how to solve them. Like we're going where we'd like to go is. Basically, if you run a business with inside property, you'll be able to use our system to identify the compliance steps that you need to take, and that could be in lots of different forms. So really simplifying all the way down. Of course, right now it's in the private rented sector, but ultimately you have also a little journey. You've always got a journey to go on, and we're looking to see if we can introduce maybe a star rating or something like that, and looking at like, okay, here's the minimum that you need to do to let a property. Okay, now you need license. Okay, now you've got 2 stars. Now you've got through your planning, you've got 3 stars. And then you have these kind of grey areas where it would be great to make sure that you've used this sort of person with this sort of accreditation at all times. You make sure that you've ticked all these kind of things off, which are buried inside legislation, which aren't really that complicated, but really just creating that kind of industry standard across the whole industry that goes, okay, this means this, and this is the kind of rating that you have in your property, which is then accessible by landlords, agents, tenants, etc., and hopefully driving more value to agents that are looking to create compliant portfolios, basically.
Okay, and what's the main problem that Yuno offers to solve for agents?
Yeah, it's the time saving and the risk behind it, basically. So basically, by having all your properties in one place, analysing your compliance from loads of different licensing requirements, lots of different fire requirements, planning requirements, etc., all in one place, it just saves a hell of a lot of time, basically, and you get it right every single time. So that's really important, and that's what we're trying to deliver to our clients. So we want to reduce their time, which we do in droves, and we want to obviously reduce the risk, which is all part of the same data and what we do on the platform. And obviously, we have a kind of open marketplace. So we obviously try to solve, and we have been solving as an agency for like a few years, as a consultancy agency for a few years, of like taking you through a licensing process or a planning process or a fire process, and largely our clients use us for that. But we've got a really open marketplace feel on the other side of things, where you already have your own electrical guys, you have your own gas guys, you have the people you have relationships with, and that's what we're building into the marketplace as well. You can incorporate your own teams just as much as you like. So
excellent. And what's the main barrier to you delivering out for your own agents? Is it agents themselves adopting and getting on board? Is it other third parties? What stops your job being the easiest thing it can be?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, there's a bit of a lack of understanding, or not wanting to understand, because it opens up a bag of worms. Basically, that's the process. So I guess a lot of our job is the platform has been built to educate, built to simplify. So I guess it's for agents to, I mean, if you think you have an issue and you think you're putting your head in the sand a little bit, then yeah, reach out for a chat to us. We can give you a free trial. If it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's not. I mean, some agents will have more problems than other ones. Some people will think they have it sorted and it's not. I mean, 99 times out of 100, when we scan a database, there's a lot of risk in there for the landlords and for them, because obviously the agent is just as liable as the landlord when it comes to this new legislation. So
that's an interesting. But how do you quantify that risk then when you're looking at that? How are you able to come to a judgment over to what that level of risk is?
Well, I guess it looks at what if you look at you're looking at kind of average fines. The average fine for an agent, average fine is about 5 and a bit grand. So basically, the highest agent fine is about 100 grand. So yeah, it's quite easy to quantify, how what you need to do, how much time and effort you need to look at your risk. At the end of the day, what's a business designed to do? You have to increase revenue, hopefully to increase profit and drive down risk so you can keep as much money as possible. I mean, I don't think there's much else to it. Well, there must be, otherwise we wouldn't be here chatting, Simon, would we? But yeah, that's the dream, isn't it? So yeah.
And you mentioned revenue there. Of course, there is the opportunity fantastically with yourselves for the agents themselves to derive revenue. How do most of them go around that?
Yeah, so basically, so there's obviously the time saving element, but obviously when it comes to the marketplace part of it, obviously we've systemized and streamlined a lot of processes out for licensing and planning and fire design as well, and we also look at asbestos. But at the end of the day, like that's where it passes through to an expert. So we've systemized as much as possible, and then when it comes into booking a service for your landlord, you can book it on the platform, and you can book it through to these experts that we've been working with for years. And basically, yeah, you earn a kind of 10 or 15% commission depending on what package you're on, basically with the Yuno product. So that's how they make money from it. But interestingly enough, we've got different client types. So obviously we've got agencies, but we've also got HMO architect firm that are using us. We've got planning companies, we've got sourcing companies, we've got financial advisors, etc., all looking to get this information to their clients so that they can look better. It's white labeled under their system, and obviously then for their client, there's financial advisors that go, okay, Mr. Client, you've got £70 million worth of property, this is your portfolio, I've put it through your system, you've got all these issues, and obviously I want you to be compliant as your financial advisor. So you can actually just click and buy through to the system and book in, get a license, get a compliance report, get a fire risk assessment, etc. So yeah, that's how it becomes a revenue generating platform.
Excellent. And do all agents take advantage of that, or do some of them just see it as not, not for that purpose, not for making revenue?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a completely personal choice. As you say, that there is a disparity between what agents and what their values are for their clients and what they're trying to achieve, etc. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like most of ours will look for the revenue, but some have talked about it, and we just say that's no problem. Just the 10% goes to your client. It's a discount for your client. I
was just interested in what sort of take a bit was on that, because I know obviously some people just want the pure service and they don't want to worry about, not worry about it, but obsess over the revenue earning opportunities there. But obviously other agents see this very much as obviously part of the kit bag of revenue streams for the business.
Yeah, and I suppose it depends. Yeah, there's so many different models out there, and so many what you're trying to achieve, etc. If you can make your revenue in some other way, then that's fine as well. And this might not be for that part of the system, might still be for you. But as I said, you just apply the 10% discount to your client rather than keeping it in. The client's nobody's none the wiser. It's just like, okay, it's a 10% discount just because you used our white labeled service for this. So yeah, that's how it works.
Cool. And who's using Yuno right now, and kind of what success stories are they getting from you guys?
Yeah, so obviously our biggest client is Hamptons. They've been using us since they've been iterating the product with us for the last year. And the success story so far is that they use us for all our licensing processes, and obviously we're just discovering more and more compliance issues all the time. And yeah, they just love there's no risk. It's just great. They're discovering things that they didn't quite know that they had, and even then, just like their existing CRM solution doesn't even allow them to determine where their property is. They've got an address, but they can't tell what council it's in. Something so simple. And to search between, how do I search for all my properties within this council? You can't even do that. So yeah, obviously just really simple things that save a lot of time. And that's what they love about it. And then, as I say, from other agency standpoint, it's a revenue generating machine. As I said, like you've talked about, like who gets value out of who doesn't, etc. Like if you are a single agency in a council area where where there's not a lot of licensing going on, there's no Article 4 planning restrictions, etc., etc. I mean, you probably are, from a risk perspective, not at as much of a risk, but there's also, whether you need a license or not, all HMOs and all the rest of things, obviously licensing is mostly not HMOs, but obviously it's a dirty word. But if you've got two sisters and a friend living together on the same tenancy agreement, it's a HMO, and there's loads of things you as an agent are at risk for, whether you need a license or not, and that's something you need to protect the interests of you and your client. So yeah, that's super important. And obviously then licensing changes on average every 8.2 days. So like one thing, what we had, one of our partners, D&G, who were like, oh yeah, we've got can you tell me about what's happening in Croydon? And I was like, oh, this, etc., etc. And we were like, well, no, actually, that's changed, and this council's changed, and this is what's happened here. So yeah, it's difficult to keep up with everything at all times. So yeah, we don't actually give advice on what's happening in individual councils outside of the platform. It's just basically it gets delivered on the platform. So there's no like the platform does exactly what it says it's supposed to. I'm not going to give you individual advice on these things because the platform does it and it's systemized, and I can't tell you the wrong thing. You can't think that I said the wrong thing, etc., etc. It's all just systemized and processed out.
That's great, and one of the big benefits you've obviously got there is with the likes of massive companies like Hamptons coming on board. You've clearly got scalability there, haven't you? In terms of nobody's got to worry about that side of things. You've got the ability to get this out there in the way that it needs to go.
Yeah, it works. It works on big data. The more data that's gone out, the more useful it is for people. And like what as I said, our use cases before are we did some testing where one of our partners had a landlord with 3 properties. They gave access to the landlord in one of the very early clunky editions of Yuno. They give access to the landlord that says, here's your 3 properties, this is how it's going to get compliant, this is the problems, etc., and try to deliver it all on the platform to them. So they got access, they viewed it, and then they added 7 more properties that the agency didn't even know about. So it becomes, which is really simple, but because the data and information is so confusing and it's such an easy way to explain it, and it's all in one place, the agency actually got 7 new property leads out of that one client who didn't even know he had. So yeah, that was quite interesting. So yeah, there's a lot of different use cases, and as I said, it's like it's such a modular, systemized platform that it can be used by agencies, by planners, by architects, by portfolios, etc. You white label it. You might have 300 of your own properties, but say for example you've got one of your client you've got 10 of his properties and he's got another 20. And he's going to stick those other 20 on the platform because it's useful. Yeah. Is included in your service, and that's great for you. It holds the client to you. So yeah, that's what goes on.
So you're turning it from that quite cold data description, aren't you, actually into useful information that any agency can actually turn into business winning opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, so basically, it's kind of like being able to run your own planning and licensing data consultancy without actually having to do anything. And get referrals through a platform that you don't actually have to do anything. So yeah, that's the kind of beauty of it. So yeah, it's been fantastic the last year building it. It's been interesting.
Good. Well, they're always exciting times, aren't they? Getting building your new businesses and everything else. And it's a bit unfair of me, but how big do you think? How big do you think the problem, the ostrich problem, agents sticking their head in the sand, ignoring compliance? What percentage, and this is just a complete ballpark figure, what ballpark of agents do you think don't have a full grasp, a full understanding of the compliance issues?
Well, it's 90+%.
I was hoping you'd say something like that. Yeah,
that's just not like that. That's as I said, so the whole point in like why we set up before the data sets and all the rest of the thing was to give access to accredited people to give you advice. I do content with Fixflow and we've got partnerships starting with them and all the rest of the things, and it's like you don't know what you don't know, and the more I know, the more I don't. I'm like, oh, I don't actually know what that is, and on the face of it, sometimes can seem really simple, but it's pretty complicated, and that's why
And getting ever more complicated, isn't it? That's the key. And I can't think that there was. I don't think we need to do a straw poll, but the percentage of business owners that went into this industry thinking, you know what, compliance is going to be my secret sauce. It's going to be my differentiator. That doesn't happen very often, does it? But that doesn't mean to say that, you know, actually, if you were to look at an area that you could specialize in, that gives you a really, really strong foundation for the business just to be able to mark yourself apart, isn't it?
Yeah, so one of our early individual independent agents, they did precisely that. They completely, and this was before, but just in the standard consultancy model before, Yuno. And then we worked with him, he learned more about it, etc., etc. And he was educating landlords, his own and new landlords that came to him. And some landlords went, yeah, I don't care, I'm going to risk it for a biscuit, shall we say. But the majority of his landlords are like, you know, I wasn't actually told that by the other two agencies. So you tell me if I put in two sisters and a friend, I'm going to get, you know, I'm going to have to spend $3,000. And he's like, yeah, you will. It's like, well, that's great. What have I done by that if I didn't know? But they did actually spend the money because they realized that for, you know, getting, you know, 3 tenants, 2 sisters and a friend living together was much better, more beneficial because they got another £300 a month, so it paid itself off in a year. But yeah, arming the agent with that kind of tech and arming them with the information and arming them with the cost to go through this process as well. But obviously, I mean, you've got selective licensing schemes, which one side of the street, if you've got a family in it, will need a family or 1 or 2 people will need a license. The other side of the street, you don't need a license, so you're screwed anyway. So difficult.
Yeah, you're quite right. There's always a demographic in any industry that say, look, I don't give a toss, frankly. But actually, the majority of people have to respect that thought leadership. It might not be something that they themselves get passionate about, but it's something that they have to be on top of, and that's where the huge opportunity lies, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So, what does 2021 have in store for Yuno, though? Apart from all these vaccines that are fantastic and dropping off there, and everything's going to be happy again. What about the business side? You're in a very exciting phase of growth for the business. What do you?
So we're just at the start of onboarding. So we've got our existing clients that have been with us in the consultancy arm, which are all obviously moving or have moved across to Yuno. And then we also have obviously new clients we're speaking to, like, as I said, some interest in, okay, I'm a financial advisor, I'm an architect, I'm all these sort of things, and wanting to use the platform and partner with us. So yeah, it's just learning about all these different clients and how we can be useful and how we can change the platform to be more useful to our users. That's the kind of key to it, because you can only go so far with your own ideas. Then after that, it's like, what is actually the next thing to build? And then we're going to hire somebody with a really cool job title name like geospatial data scientist or something like that. I'm sure we need them.
I see these flying on its way into you right now.
I just got it just now, Simon. No, sorry, you've been rejected, mate, Paul.
Not for the first time.
Yeah, so like we need that. Like we are expanding throughout the UK. We're adding Reading, we're adding 4 Essex Council just now, Birmingham and Manchester before Christmas. So it's just kind of like on what our users want. If a agency comes to us and says, we operate in none of the areas you currently cover, we just say, okay, where do you cover? And then by the time you're live, it'll be, and you're paying for it, you'll be free until we've got all your areas on it. So that's how it works.
So you've obviously got an ethos of listening to your clients, and that then drives, like all good businesses should. That should play a part in in obviously the future development. What does that look like to you, though? Is it literally just those ad hoc conversations, or do you encourage your clients to send sort of enhancement ideas in? What's the process for that? Is it quite natural, or is there a system around it?
Yeah, so I mean, like, I'm not proclaiming to say that we do everything right. As with every business, we get everything wrong and then fix it and get better. But say, for example, so our partner with Sprift, who's also a Kerfuffle member, and they know know any property anywhere or whatever. It's pretty cool. So basically, they are interested in us adding more councils. So my job is listen to them. What do their agency clients look like, and what new councils do they want us to add? And that's pretty simple. It's like, what's their data telling us, what's our data telling us, and what's our new partners telling us? Add more data, add more councils, add more data. That's pretty simple. So my kind of user interface from a platform perspective, it's a lot more time consuming. So that's basically, for example, Hamptons, we have a weekly call with their team, and team varies. So you have somebody that knows absolutely nothing, somebody that's touched them before, somebody that understands everything. So this is like, tell me exactly what it is and take me through the platform automatically. That's their feedback. And right to the top is like, I want this new feature, but I want a map that pinpoints it everywhere and do all this sort of stuff, and all singing and all dancing. And then we've got to basically take all that feature feedback and then just kind of prioritize it in. So yeah, that's basically how it works.
No, that's really good. It's really nice to hear. You know, sometimes you hear people talk about it, and then actually, you know, the customer comes first, and of course we listen to our clients, and it just, you know, sometimes it doesn't seem to really actually happen, and that's not the case with you, as you can see from the way it's going. And looking a bit further afield, Paul, where do you see Yuno in 5 years' time?
Yeah, as I said, like,
apart from worth millions.
Well, maybe. Yeah. So basically, it's about expanding that same ethos out. Basically, we want to have the data all on the platform for the whole of the UK. We want it to be able to serve multiple business types. So as I say, we've got lots of different kinds of clients, and how they're using it is really important for us. I mean, I can kind of estimate that what I would like to happen is, as I said, I would like to be able to, for any business to be able to, any business that operates with inside a property, so that could be a commercial premises, and then that breaks down to restaurants and offices and etc. So you put in, this is my address, this is the sort of business I'm running, this is how I'm running in it, and it takes you down an action plan from the highest risk down, and then it bolts you onto a marketplace of experts that can take care of that for you if you want, and then monitors the compliance of your business portfolio as well. So you might have offices, you might have residential, you might have mixed use cases, etc. So it's basically trying to build that all into one place. It's kind of like, I mean, let's think of some buzzwords. Non-exciting, Wikipedia for compliance. Exciting, Bloomberg for compliance. Yeah, I guess that's it.
I love that. Yeah, that gets me going there. We'll ask all of our watchers and Kerfuffleites to give their own ideas as well, and we'll forward those on to you in time.
It might be different. It might be different. Yeah.
I'm looking more broadly, Paul. So what about the industry in general? How do you think that's going to change over the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what we saw before we started investing in the tech of Yuno, was this professionalization in the marketplace. The mom and pop landlords are getting squeezed out. It's getting more professional. You've seen that through taxation. You're getting pushed through taxation. You're getting pushed through Arla and Arma. There's more accreditations getting put into place. There's more compliance put in place. There's regulation coming from all sides. And the only way for that to work is the economies of scale. So you'll get less individual landlords. And obviously, I mean, whatever that 80% of the market has 2 to 3 properties, that average will start to go up, basically. And that's kind of how I see it, as a kind of professionalization in the market. And obviously, compliance is one element of that, which is a bit of a headache. And that's what we ideally aim to be, is that kind of market leading data partner and platform partner to basically take that headache away, so you can concentrate on running your portfolio.
Prop tech paracetamol. You can have that.
Nailed it.
Okay, that's great. Really interesting to obviously hear about, your thoughts about that. Obviously, someone who's going to really understand and know that we're going forwards. And you've been really kind, I've got to say, Paul, in terms of, let's just have a look at your, I think I've got it up here on the page. Let's just have a look at your wonderful landing page up on Kerfuffle at the moment. Yeah, I know. I always feel that as well. So obviously we've just got you on, so that explains why you haven't got reviews, but we're going to be obviously seeing those come through. I'm absolutely certain now. We've obviously got a fantastic deal here as well, haven't we, Paul? Do you want to just talk us through that? What you've been able to do for our Kerfuffle members?
Yeah, exactly. So it's twofold, basically. So basically we're given access to the Yuno platform. The Yuno platform is obviously white labeled. Before we get to white labeled, you might want to try it out. You've got problems right now. Generally, people come to us like, I have a problem and I need to get it solved. So our objective is to help you get that solved. So we're given access to the platform for 60 days for Kerfuffle members, usually only 30 days, and you can add up to 20 properties to the platform. You can try it out. You can, before you even commit, and obviously our idea is to solve as many problems as we can for your 20 highest risk properties. And that's, it's no obligation. Try it out. Let us help you, etc., etc.
Help us help you again. I'm gonna get that GIF out for you on the social campaigns. Thanks for that. That really is generous. We're not a big fan of things like setup fees here, and I know it's not possible with every supplier, but where you can, let people suck it and see and do that, and especially where you can extend it out like that, so they can really give it a good go. I've said, you've probably seen on a few of the webinars, I said now is the perfect time to be deciding on who your partners are for 2021. And that ability, if you can get on board with you guys, give it a test in the run-up to the new year, obviously whilst things are quieting down a little bit there, could really show up a valuable supplier stroke partner going forward. So again, I thank you there. Just as another couple of obviously things in terms of there, we obviously have the we've obviously got, you've been kind enough to put the price point in there to talk about that, your different models, and there's the integrations tab where you talk about obviously Sprift having partnered up with you guys and the CRM element. So we're always encouraging our Kerfuffle members, go and do your due diligence on the site. Look at that quite niche information there. If you're a Sprift partner, it makes obvious sense to pick up the phone to Paul and see how that works, or save yourself the phone call. We've got this wonderful pink button in the middle of the screen for everyone, and we'll forward on any queries directly to Paul and his team to answer as well. So Paul, I want to say thank you again. Let me just summarize though in terms of the key messages we've got here. So as far as I'm concerned, in terms of, you've obviously got the first and most important thing is reducing the portfolio risk. Yes, it might seem like an esoteric threat in terms of these £100,000 fines and everything else, but agents are being fined all the time. Whether it's the 5,000 or higher and everything else there. This is really an insurance policy about making sure your business is safe and everything you've worked for over the course of the year. Could you imagine, here we are coming into November, you get hit with a fine at the end of the year and your profit margin disappears. That's not particular. That would really put the crowning turd on 2020, wouldn't it? Secondly, increase the revenue for your business. Yes, it's not just a cost. It's not just a tick in the box in terms of compliance. There is the opportunity here, as many of your member agents do, to actually get a revenue stream derived for doing the right thing. Again, couldn't be any better. And then finally, just that wonderful one, that the whole point about tech, whether it's prop tech or anything else like that, it's just about efficiency, saving time, admin, and everything else there. And without that triple whammy of elements there, all at a very cost-effective point, you should really be reaching out to Paul and just asking him if you've got obviously interest in this area.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words.
Not a problem at all. You have a fantastic day. And look, your 4G held out, and my Virgin and the engineers outside stopped going at it with the power tool. So everything's good.